Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining in. Today we have a very special guest, Don Stinson. Uh, Thank you, my friend. Thanks so much for like just joining us today. We are very happy to have you because you can help us untangle these complexities of fatherhood and you wear so many hats. So I think it'll be very nice to have you on. You're being a dad of six, and you're also a passionate advocate. For youth, and also you're a champion for redefining what it means to be a father. So thanks so much for being here today, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Suli. I got confused. I thought this was a job interview. I thought I was going to interview to be your personal assistant, and it said the
Oh man.
salary was 1.4 million a year. So I can negotiate at 1.3
Oh,
if
there you
that's the
go.
case. But I'll
Oh,
do whatever.
oh my
So
goodness. Oh, my friend. Actually, looking at that, I think the highest paid people should be our partners, big time.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh my
No, I
goodness.
think so, and I am willing to take half of that money.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come in and come in at the reduced rate. I'm okay with that.
There you go. Oh, Dan, thanks so much for coming in. So, for folks that do not know you, my friend, can you tell us a little bit about you, my friend?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I could list all of the roles that I have and what I do. Obviously, I'm a dad,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to make money, so I work and I have jobs and all of these things, and things that I believe in and things that I stand for. But I got to a point recently where I understood kind of why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So not to come out like out of the gate with the real big stuff there, but I think I'm a person that is here to hopefully leave things better than they found them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of my big picture thing. And how do I do that? I do that through being a father, and through being a partner, and through the various jobs that I have. And I've got a main salary job that I do where I'm a high school music teacher. And, Suli, I think you understand like money is not the end all be all, but it
Right.
certainly is a helpful tool.
Right.
So for me, I really love what I do and I love being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understood that, hey, this money thing is important, but I don't want to give up what I love. So
Mm-hmm.
I also just had a few other projects that I did that were for love, but also sometimes, in terms of just helping my family be a little more stable. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I do some writing on the side. I do
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit of public speaking and do some
Mm-hmm.
online courses in the music education world. And then did some professional performing as well on trumpet. So I would play trumpet for churches and colleges and events there. And all of that stuff, it's really fun to do. You kind of have the bonus of getting paid with it. But my proudest job, of course, is being a family man and being there for my partner and my children. So it's been great to kind of get to this next point in my life where I can talk to other dads like you, as
Mm-hmm.
you said, about how to maybe untangle whatever all of this is. And,
Mm-hmm.
and, and sometimes it's not as messy as we think it is. And
Right.
sometimes they're messes that we as the dads have tangled up and then we got to fix them.
Right.
you know,
Right.
but yeah, that's me. That's me in a nutshell.
Amazing. Amazing. And when I was reading a little bit about your bio, you know, like you had mentioned something about, like you did have so many dads showing up in your life and such. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that shaped your view
Oh
on
yeah.
fatherhood?
Yeah, absolutely. Dad looked different to me growing up because
Mm-hmm.
dad was sometimes a teacher, or it was maybe a church leader or a
Mm-hmm.
community coach. Sometimes I felt like it was the city that I grew up in. And I
Mm-hmm.
say that because, I was one of those kids that grew up in a home without a dad for a while. My dad left when I was about 3 years old. And then later on, I had a stepdad that entered the picture, and he wasn't a bad guy. We just didn't really see eye to eye, and there wasn't much of a relationship there. So, and you combine that with some other challenges that I had growing up. We didn't have a lot of money,
Yeah.
and when I say we didn't have a lot of money, like we had times where we were renting a house that was okay. Then we had times that we were in a apartment in a rough area. We had other times where like, hey, this van is right now going to double as your home. So I don't know if you've talked with people that have grown up in poverty before, but on one hand, you grow up pretty resilient, right? Like I don't need much beyond the shirt on my back. I could probably figure out
Right.
how
Right.
to get through a lot of situations. But on the other hand, like some of those habits die hard, and once you get to a certain point, like you don't want your kids to have to go through that stuff, right? You want your kids to have challenges, but we don't want their safety to be threatened. And also, just you as a person sometimes have to get through those things and go, okay, just because you were poor and had difficult situations before, this isn't who you were destined to be. This isn't just there isn't a ceiling necessarily on who you can be there, but it takes a lot of work to get through that.
Right.
But luckily, as you brought up there, like there were so many people. Like I could have gone down a pretty difficult path, but I had so many people in my community that either they saw something in me or they said, boy, this kid is rough and he
Right.
needs some help. I'm just so thankful that those people came out to help. Sometimes it was big help, right? Sometimes like I didn't realize it, but maybe they were coming out to help pay the bills at home. Maybe they were like, here's a bag of clothes that would end up on the front porch, happen to be in my size, food, things like that.
Right.
Other times they were people that just were there when I needed them for maybe advice on everything from opening up a checking account the first time to, how to speak to people appropriately. So that network is so important, and I think that's one of the reasons today why I'm passionate about being a dad, not only in my own home, but also hoping that I can help a little bit with the resources in my own community.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think all those struggles you mentioned, that they kind of inspired you to create, to like start a nonprofit for the under youth, correct?
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's interesting why I did that. So I grew up in Joliet, which is about, and you said you're familiar with Naperville, so
Right.
it's not too far from Naperville,
Right.
about an hour outside of Chicago. And love the town of Joliet. But again, there were a lot of programs in town for me. We couldn't afford the registration fee for the baseball teams out
Right.
here. So, but the police department had something out here called the Police Athletic League, right? So they had
Okay.
a free baseball league that was coached by police officers,
Okay.
right? I'm not going to tell you that I got pulled over by one later when I was 10 years old or
Oh,
10
yeah.
years older,
Right.
and
Right.
stuff
Right.
like
Right.
that, He's like, is that you, Donnie? Slow down, right? But so many of those community programs were very, very helpful. So as I got older and I start working in my community again, like, hey, I'm in the public education area, I want to give back in that sense. But I also said, maybe there's a little bit more I could do here. So yeah, I created a nonprofit, Legacy Fine Arts, and we offer music lessons and dance lessons and fine arts programs and mentoring for kids age 5 to 18.
Okay.
And it's anyone can do it in the community, but it's also mainly focused on low income and underserved kids.
Okay.
And so I love doing that because we've first of all just been giving more opportunities to kids out there. We've got a couple programs. We've got like a youth mentor summer band that we do. We have a mariachi group, and I started with nothing with that program. It was very grassroots. I don't know if you've ever done any of the nonprofit stuff, but like if I knew everything that was entailed, I
Right.
still would have done it.
Right.
But it was nice to go in and just say, I'm just doing this thing. And then you kind of learn along the way, right? Just making
Right.
sure, of course, you're legal with all these, tax things and whatnot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
but that's just been awesome to do. Like we're literally reaching hundreds of kids now
Amazing.
each year, and helping them out to,
Amazing.
essentially, yeah, get something that maybe they couldn't get
Hmm.
on their own. So I'm really proud of that. I've had my own children have been involved with helping to like set up some of those items as well. So it's, yeah, I just love my community, and I'm glad that I am at a point where I can finally help out in what I think are physical and financial ways.
Amazing. Amazing. Actually, my friend, what you're doing is something that I think represents dad puzzles because, you know, like you mentioned, like money is not the answer, but it's something that we need actually to be able to be there for our kids.
Yeah.
Most of the dads they work so many, they work long hours, and guess what? They don't have time. Like they don't have enough time to spend with their kids. They're missing all these games. So that's why you have this soccer mom and stuff like that. But we need to be there as well. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah,
know.
and that's the thing. I always say, like, our caring and our love just,
Hmm.
it looks different. Going to work all the time, like, that is caring, and that
Right.
is loving your kid.
Hmm.
But it's hard, right?
Hmm.
It's hard to be away, and as you can imagine, sometimes just that presence
Hmm.
of being there.
Right.
And you didn't ask this question, but I would say anybody that is going like, what the heck can I do if I'm working all the time?
Hmm.
I know I've been there, and
Hmm.
even just 15 intentional minutes with those kids sometimes can make all the difference in the world.
Right.
I've had those 15 20-hour days,
Hmm.
and you come home and
You're
and
cooked.
then, yeah, and then
Hmm.
your kid comes up to you and,
Hmm.
can you read me a story? And it's like,
Right.
great. Like, we got to get to a point where it's like, cool, I'll read you two stories right now. I'm going to be passed out by the end of this,
Right.
but but yes, I am doing this for you, and I have time for you. But yeah, those are real situations where,
Right.
I don't want anyone to think that like they're doing wrong by their kids
No.
by
No. No.
working all the time there. But I think there is another way with it, and sometimes it just takes some reorganizing and some shifting around, taking those puzzle pieces and maybe moving a corner over to an edge, right?
And that's why I love to, well, like what you mentioned, you do have your main gig and you have other things you do on the side,
Yeah.
and this is good because also the the reason why every time I speak with the different folks from different backgrounds, I want them to like share what they do because the other dads that are, let's say, maybe they're working long hours, they can learn about something else that will give them more flexibility with time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good,
Yeah,
my
and
friend.
the other thing too, Suli, it's easy
Mhm.
to become a hypocrite with those things as well.
Mhm.
I was working on a LinkedIn post one time
Okay.
about the time I was spending with my kids,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It was real. This is the time we spent, all that.
Mhm.
And as I'm working on that post, one of my kids came in and asked me something.
Mhm.
I said, "Hey, I got work to do right now."
Mm.
So I went back to working on this LinkedIn post that says I spend time with my kids
Right.
after
Right.
I just told one of my kids,
Mhm.
wait, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what happened? Like,
Mm.
I'm slow sometimes. 2 or 3 minutes later, I'm like, oh, come on, Don,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So you stop it, you go back,
Mhm.
and you talk. So again, it is so easy to get caught up in those things of, you want to help everyone that you can.
Right.
But I don't think it's selfish to say, hey, sometimes this side thing that I'm doing, or
Mhm.
even sometimes my main thing, yeah, we got bills to pay, but sometimes this has to go on the back burner because I have to take care of my own home right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely, my friend. And you know, yeah, it's very important what you mentioned. And because a lot of times, you know, uh, we kind of we tend to prioritize things. For instance, after the hours, after you're done with work and all these things, you still
Yeah.
need to create that time. Make sure, okay, this is for them. Because you know the time is short. Like my colleague before mentioned, one of my guests that like Nelligan is mentioned about how the 75% of the time with your kids is gone by the age 12. Imagine that.
Oh gosh.
So imagine that, my friend. So these studies they kind of make it obvious for us. So we kind of we have to prioritize kids, and family in general for sure. So my friend, how do you get to manage all these things? You have the nonprofit going, you have six
Oh
kids,
yeah.
you got the successful career. what are the challenges that you're facing in making everything work?
Yeah, I think at first the challenge was I had to find the perfect discipline system for everything, which meant Monday every day I'm working my main job, but Monday is I'm going to try to exercise every day. And then also Monday is the day I work on nonprofit stuff, right? Tuesday and Wednesday would be my writing day. Thursday would be a marketing day. Friday would be a day I organize all of this stuff, right? Now after school, that's like definitely family time. Before school, that's family logistics. And all of that sounds great until one day gets off, right? That's like one kid gets sick,
Right. Oh
or
no.
I get sick, or I'm tired and I decide to skip my writing Wednesday, right? So I think like that system worked fine for a bit, but it almost felt like a house of cards. Because if one little piece was
Right.
off, I was wrecked for a week,
Right.
and you know how it is. Like sometimes you take a day off work to do whatever, you're sick and you have to recover, and you come back the next day and you're like, I might as well have come here. Like I had twice as much work to do.
Right.
So I think it came to me of going, the schedule isn't bad, the system isn't bad, but I do have to understand that if I miss something, that window is closed, right? Meaning, like, if I miss a writing day, cool, that window's closed on Wednesday. You're going to do it next Wednesday, and you're not going to catch up on it. And I think that comes with our family stuff, too. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad, but you miss that game. Like, the kid's not doing the game again to make it up for you tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
That window is closed. So I think it for me, it started to come into number one, realizing I can't do as much as I think I can. And I think it also looked at the sense of I didn't always have to work on everything at once. So the nonprofit kind of has its higher work days at some point during the years, but then after we do a project with that, we kind of back off. We take a little rest from that, right?
Right.
So it becomes a little more project oriented. When I was writing a book, that's a lot of writing, but then when you send it to a publisher, you don't hear anything for 4 to 6 weeks until the editor sends it back, right?
Right.
So I think it was balancing some of those priorities, but with the kids, it's been great, and I share some of these things on LinkedIn. Like one of the things that helps us quite a bit is like these checklists for the kids. So I bought a laminator on Amazon, like
Okay.
$25. I'll laminate anything. You send it to my house, I'll laminate it for free. Business cards and
Right.
documents and whatever else.
Right.
But made a list for each kid of just things they need to do each day. Right? Make your bed. Your reading time starts here. There's this, and this is not for me to not be engaged with them, but the older kids kind of liked it because I left a lot of slots for them to kind of organize their own thoughts. The younger kids, it's a lot of pictures on it. But it's been easy, not only for the kids to see it, but also for me not to make so many decisions. Because I can then look at the kids and go, what are you supposed to be doing now? And I look at their list, I'm like, oh, okay, right now is our reading time, right? Do we have our beds made? Do we have this? And that's just because I'm kind of a checklist person. One of my
Right.
kids doesn't like it at all. And but they always get their stuff done, and I say, cool, I'm not going to force my systems on you because you're getting your stuff done, right? So I think that's kind of the boring way I get things done, which is just logistics and checklists and everything.
Amazing.
But at the same time, Tuli,
Yeah.
like if something cool comes up and I find out like I don't know, there's like a famous food truck that's going to be in our area, like great, we're getting in the car and we're doing that. But
That's
my
it.
bed's not made. We can get a made bed after we all have a lobster roll.
Right.
Like, we're doing this right now.
Right.
So I think it's that thing. We've got our routines and flexibility, or routines and structure, but having that flexibility, like I don't know, that's like to me, that's why we're doing all of these things that are kind of disciplined. It's so we can enjoy these things when they pop up.
I
and
think
we
this
can
is
enjoy
a
every
very
time we get it.
actionable tip. I like it. Now you know what
Oh,
what are
yeah.
the things that really that dads can use to be more efficient like yourself. I think this is amazing. I would like to know what other things dads are doing besides what you just mentioned. I think this is an amazing thing. Some folks they don't have even a schedule like you mentioned. We just kind
Yeah.
of go by you know
Well, and
by
we
the
already
four.
have routines, right? Like
Yes.
how many people have Taco Tuesday at their night at their house every Tuesday, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of went with that
Mm-hmm.
where great, I can come home tired, but
Mm-hmm.
if I don't have anything on the calendar at night, for me, I'm going to be doing whatever happens that night, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I have something on the calendar, and I know that for us, like Tuesday night is board game night, right?
Right.
Maybe Wednesday night is movie night in the summer. It's, I don't know if you feel this way, but for me, it's never the action of doing something that makes me tired. It's the having to figure it out and decide on it. So if I have told myself already, these are your options.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a movie night, you can do a board game night, you guys can go to a park. Let's just make things really cheap. Maybe somebody's on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
And we're picking one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
That has made our evening so much better than just kind of just sitting there and doing this,
No.
for hours on end.
Yeah. No, my kids will not let you do it. They will bother you.
Yeah.
They'll not bother, but they'll
Oh
remind you
yeah.
for sure. Like,
You
no,
get
Dad,
that.
we
You get
have
the.
to. I'm ready.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Dad?
Yeah, I don't know how many times I look at my phone, all of a sudden there'd be this like face coming up. I'm like, oh, you're right. That's the real high def in front of me.
Tired of fads and frustration? Build sustainable wellness for life. Forget quick fixes that fail to deliver lasting results. Imagine feeling energized, moving confidently, and radiating health for years. Achieving true wellness isn't about exhaustion or deprivation. It's about building habits that fit seamlessly into your life. Invest in yourself today for lasting fitness, radiant health, and mental well-being. Ready to transform your life? Click here to learn more. By purchasing the book, you'll gain lifetime access to updates, newsletters, future editions, and exclusive wellness bonuses from the author. Start your journey to wellness now.
Right. Oh man. This is amazing. So I know, like, you have mentioned how saying yes to family without them asking. Can you expand? Like, talk more a little bit about this concept.
Oh yeah, I think with that, there's so many dads, myself included, that I feel like we wanted a personal invitation to parent, right? We wanted to be invited or asked to parent, and that's quite a few different reasons, right? I think sometimes we go into some gender roles, right, where we think maybe mom is the one that's got to be doing the parenting, and we're out there just putting our head down and making the money and providing, right? Other times, maybe there's just one partner that's more dominant than the other partner. That's not a bad thing. Or there would be times, a few other things, like sometimes, people don't think they're going to say the right thing or they're going to mess up. And then we even have those times where sometimes people are afraid of their kids, right? They're afraid their children are not going to like them, for some reason. So, some of that for me is like, some of it was like, okay, well, newsflash, if they don't like me, that's great. They're still living under my roof right now, right? and you have to ask yourself, and is what I'm doing, is it harming anybody? Is it unfair, right? No, like, we're trying to parent our children. They're not our friends right now. We can be friendly, but yeah, chances are at some point your kid is not going to like you for something. I don't think it's going to be long term in most cases, but when we talk to kids all the time like they're adults, it's not the same, right? They are not adults. We're not kids. It's hard to relate on that. So I think for that, for any dad that's kind of feeling passive, that is your child, and I think you have absolute permission to parent that child. Sometimes that looks like, we don't want to always just focus on discipline. Sometimes it's hey, we're not doing that in the house. We don't run the house, etc. Other times, like for me, I found that's very effective with my kids is relating stories from when I was a kid. And they were just things about, maybe I said something I shouldn't have said when I was in elementary school and this consequence happened, right? Or maybe it was, here was a time I was nervous about playing my trumpet in church the first time. My mom made me do it. I hated doing this, but by the end, I really enjoyed it, right? And for me, it's just that thing of, again, just being a little bit intentional with the lesson that you're trying to potentially teach the kid,
Right.
and sharing that, and understanding that, yes, you as a
It's
dad
amazing. I
can
think
have
I
a
used
role
to
as
kind of.
well.
Are you frozen? So that's the problem with the live. I
Oh, we're
apologize.
good now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect,
Oh,
perfect.
that's okay.
It's okay. But after the live, I think we can have a good, clear, recording where we can, both appear
Yeah,
nice and
absolutely.
smooth. My friend, so I know this is one of the challenge because I think some, this is the different time than what we used to have back in the days. So I think we'll try to go along with what they have. And I used to kind of do the same. And I think now what I find working is more of, let's say, trying to, like, reminding them, okay, by the way, you have done this wrong. So your timeout is you wanted me to do you this favor, maybe buy, like buying something or whatever. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
happening. Those kind of stuff. They've been working magic.
Yeah, and I think it's also whatever you say,
Right.
like you gotta deliver on,
Absolutely.
right? So
Yes.
like those and I absolutely feel
Hmm.
for these people, but like we were at a concert in May, and
Hmm.
there was this kid in front of us messing around,
Hmm.
and his mom, if I'm lying, I'm dying here. His mom was like, I'm gonna count to three, and if you don't do this by three, I'm taking you out of this concert. Okay? And she starts going, one. The kid's messing around. She goes, two. And then this poor lady goes, two and a half. And I'm like, okay.
Oh.
And her husband is next to her just laughing about this.
Hmm.
She looks at him and starts laughing because they both knew at this point, we don't want to do this, right?
Hmm.
Nobody actually wants to discipline their child. That doesn't
Hmm.
feel good.
Right.
But it's that stuff where it's like, I don't know. I think just having those systems in place and understanding, like, there's a lot of things that are a conversation,
Hmm.
right? But there are other things in a house. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to say in place, like, hey, this is a house. We don't kick, we don't hit, we don't scream
Right.
at people. That stuff
Right.
happens. Like for us, no, that is an instant. You are in your room away from everyone, until you've calmed down and we can have that conversation about why this is inappropriate behavior, but I think it's that thing too of like sometimes you'll hear parents, and they'll be like, well, if you don't behave, you're not getting anything for your birthday. Like, you're gonna buy your kids something for the birthday. Don't, like
Mm.
don't put an empty threat out there. And I think
Right.
that sometimes, because kids will call you on this stuff. I think
Hmm.
that can absolutely make your job as a parent harder
Hmm.
when your kids know that you're not going to be true to your word. And that's not just discipline, but that's also saying, I got with all these kids at home, I got to stop over promising, right? Every single morning, a kid be like, okay, I want your time today. Can I have you at this time for this game?
Hmm.
Can you do bike riding here? Can you? And I try to be great, right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden the day is gone. I'm like, oh my
Oh
gosh,
no.
all right, let's
What
get
happened?
you
I
on the
promise.
bike while I'm watching the movie with you while I'm building the Legos
Yeah.
here. So, yeah, sometimes you got to disappoint, and that's it's not because you're trying to be rude or anything like that. It's just I think it's important to stay true to our word.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think with me, what I learned is actually I got this from my from my wife. It's like we'll be making if they misbehave, she will be saying, by the way, I'm buying, let's say, ice cream or whatever, because their age is 5, 4, you know, like almost 3 now. So that kind of changes because those little things when you go to the store and you buy, let's say, two things for, uh oh.
Oh, we're good. Yeah, we froze for a second. I got you.
Okay, perfect. So,
Yeah.
like when you do that, then the other one remembers really well. So it's like, oh
Oh
no,
yeah.
I don't want to get this time out again. So next time when they're out and they misbehave a little bit, and
Yeah.
like it's really group pressure. It's a peer pressure among themselves. They're trying to be like, okay, who can do better than the other and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah.
we
Yeah.
understand that as parents because we've been there. So, but I find this technique is amazing. Of, by the way, I'm gonna get something. If, like even if it's like small thing at the like a Dollar Tree, like a Dollar Tree. They
Yeah, yeah.
they appreciate that difference. Oh, by the way, I think I'm not gonna get this thing. So dad,
Sure.
when dad says something, let me listen a little bit because I think the consequence is not gonna be good.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I think it's those just again, it's routines, it's habits.
Right.
We had I mean, to me, I always think about just like what works at school sometimes, and
Yeah.
like I go way back to school, like nursery rhymes and stuff. I had the other day, I don't know, the house was a mess, and even the older ones, I just brought them in the room. I'm like, you guys want to play Simon Says? They're like, yeah, okay. Simon Says pick up, I'm like, okay, Simon Says jump, and you're like, Simon Says this, cool. Simon Says everyone pick up two things in the living room. They're doing that right away.
Right.
I think I gave away junk mail as a prize afterwards. Junk mail and Post-its and expired coupons,
my
and they're
goodness.
just,
Yeah.
they kind of knew it was a joke, but, we had fun. It was a little structure and routine. Like, yeah, you gotta clean the living room up each day, guys, with your, toys and stuff. But like, cool, let's spend a little time doing it as well. So yeah, it's just it's that
Nice.
we can be fun and we can also be consistent and,
That's right.
and be true to our word. Yeah.
Amazing, boss. Can you talk a little bit about delivering those baby sounds?
Yeah, so I delivered a baby once, and it was my then wife, and it was our fifth child.
Yes.
And
Congrats, man.
that was fascinating because it was, I mean, I called the paramedics, and by the time the paramedics got there, I opened the door with a baby in my arms there, and so whatever, those are things that you never plan for, right? That didn't happen with the previous four. So now all of a sudden here's this baby, and like our house is not a medical facility. Like, if you deliver at a hospital, like, you've got all this stuff here and all these nice beds and stirrups and all this stuff. Like, we had a tiled hallway with an IKEA rug. And that's where that baby, came into the world there.
Beautiful.
And, so that was just crazy to have to be on the paramedics and going step by step with that. But like, what an experience to just, I don't know, I always get a little teary-eyed about it, but to literally have like a just kind of like fresh soul in front of you that has
Right.
experienced nothing. Like, here's a clean slate. Here is just, again, here's your child in front of you there. So, yeah, that was such an awesome experience. It was like time stood still. Paramedics get there. There's always something funny that happens with that. She was born late in the night. By the time we got to the hospital, it was the next day, so we were worried they were gonna like mess up the birth certificate.
Right,
and they
right,
did.
right.
We had to get that corrected. But the craziest part about this, Julio, is that whatever it was, a month later, we got a bill in the mail for delivery. And I said, "What do you mean we got a bill for delivery?" So I'm like calling up insurance company and all this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's a package deal." I'm like, "Can I get half of this cut off because we did the delivery at home?" They're like, "Oh, that's not how it works." Okay, so
Yeah. Wow. My friend, thank you so much. I think this is, this was an incredible experience, and not many dads have done that. So
yeah,
this is
it's
special.
something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And it's one of those things too, like when the kid messes around, you can kind of think to yourself, you know what, I brought you into this world. But just don't say it out
Literally.
loud.
Want real results that last? Stop wasting time on quick fixes. A no-fat approach to sustainable fitness, radiant health, and mental well-being is your roadmap to lasting transformation. Learn how to fuel your body, move with joy, and cultivate mental strength, all without the restrictive rules. Start your journey to sustainable success. Download your guide today.
Okay, amazing. My friend, so finding your brother and sister, all your sister really in your 30s, must have been, like an incredible thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's so this was crazy. My as I told you, my dad left when he was 3.
Right.
But he had a couple of marriages and relationships before my mom and afterwards. So I grew up I was the only child from my mom and his marriage. But then my mom had three other children with with her first husband. So like we were kind of all over the place. I have a lot of half siblings. And in my 30s, we were just sitting at the table, my mom and my sisters and the sisters and I that I knew about, and a brother. And I said something, I joked, I'm like, yeah, with what you've said about my dad, I said, I wonder if I have some siblings out there. And my mom just really nonchalantly goes, oh yeah, you got a sister in California. I went, Mom? And she goes, oh, you also have a brother. I think he lives in the town that you teach in right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
so, and he's significantly older than me, but first off, I found out that, yeah, he lived in town. And his stepdad adopted him, so he had a different last name. But his original name was Don Stinson. We have the same name. So I have a brother with the same name. But he went by a nickname, and then he had a different last name. But we were able to connect. Love him. Great guy. We're all very close now.
Nice.
But as it said, he's older. His granddaughter was actually in my class that I was teaching at that point. I've been teaching her for like 8 months, had no clue about it. So go from being her teacher to then seeing her at like the family reunions and everything. But yeah, and then I met up with my sister from California, and I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. Like we never met each other before, and you meet family for the first time, and it feels like family. So yeah, I'm very, very blessed in that department.
Amazing. I'm glad it happened, before it's too late. That's amazing. So we're all intrigued by your escape room goal,
Yeah, no, I love escape rooms. So, my partner and I, Jessica, we do those as like our date night thing, about every 2 weeks or so. And we also bring our children to that as well, and it's been a fun family thing to do. It's been a fun thing for us to do on date night. We are lucky because we're very similar in that area. We both like puzzle solving. We both can kind of take on some roles. We've had a couple small arguments in there where someone's like, put this in, and it's like, I don't understand it, right? But they've been fun. I think we've done escape rooms probably about 7 or 8 states so far, maybe 10. I got to check on it because we have them all logged. But we just love those things, and I think it's an excuse for us to just go travel sometimes, right? Anywhere we go, there's been some of those escape rooms. But yeah, we had a really cool one in Kentucky. I don't want to spoil it, but you go into this escape room, and by the time you get to the end of it, the room itself actually like transforms like it's a huge movie set, and everything you thought you knew about the room was just completely, off on it. So it's been cool. But yeah, I would encourage anybody, to try those out. I know we've had some couples that I've encouraged to do that, and afterwards they're like, we're never doing it again. Like this was the worst thing for us. I'm like, all right, maybe you guys like play Mario Kart at home.
Not for you guys, yeah.
But it really does. It really does like help you, especially when we bring the whole family of 8. Like we have to go in people management mode, right? You're gonna do this. The little kids are gonna put stuff in this slot. Older kids help us solve this thing out. So yeah, it's just a fun thing for us to do. We'll usually do some dinner afterwards, or a dessert, or a walk, and I think, like, whenever we have a date night, I try to do at least 2 or 3 different locations. Might be dinner, might be a walk, might be an escape room. Could, if we're on a budget, like a stricter budget that month because something happened, then, maybe it's not the escape room, or, some games, something like that. But just keeps things interesting, something we look forward to.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about Dad Hack number 47,
Is that the grocery handle one?
Oh man, can you yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love, and I never want to say hacks in the sense of like my hacks, some are funny, but they're more so in like, I do want to make your life easier in the places where they can be easier.
Right.
And I can tell you this, I love cooking. Love cooking. So, and I love cooking new dishes and stuff we've done before. We did like a chicken piccata thing recently, and we, love cooking desserts, anything like that. But when I get home from work, obviously that's kind of draining to be at work for a bit.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say probably if any guys out there love to cook, I would highly advise get some sort of container, and on like a Saturday or a Sunday, chop up 2 or 3 onions, put them in a container, and then chop up a little bit of garlic. And that little thing alone has made cooking so much easier, because when I go to make some dish, almost everything I make, they're like, okay, heat some oil or butter, let's get the onion, get the garlic. And it's been, you almost feel like a Food Network chef, right? Because then you can go, take the lid off, take some onions, throw them in the pan, put them out there.
You don't waste time, nothing.
You don't waste any time, right? And so it's just that little thing there that really makes a difference there, in the kitchen for me. And again, that's that. I mean, I would say going backwards on that, one of the other hacks, I guess, would be like in my home, we have our chores separated because we've communicated about them. So it is that thing of, cool, I'm agreeing to do laundry, I'm agreeing to do the cooking, we're doing this, we're doing that. So that was kind of a big thing too. So if you're going like, why is he doing the cooking? Because that's what I like to do, and that's what our agreement and communication has been.
Right.
So that's kind of the ultimate hack sometimes is we just got to open our mouth.
That's right.
and ask,
Right.
not just dictate, but say, like, hey, what do you feel about this, or could we do this?
Right. Amazing. So what are you currently, reading or listening that inspires you as a dad and a leader of the family?
So, I read a lot, and I try to read fiction at night. I love legal thrillers and things like that. But I've been on a kick lately with an author named Arthur C. Brooks.
Okay.
And he is a professor at Harvard. I can't remember what his official title is, but he's kind of like a professor of happiness. Okay, so he's got a doctorate in whatever field that is. His most recent book he wrote in combination with Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
I believe it's called Building the Life You Want.
Okay.
But he's got so many great books on basically meaning in life. And there's one I think any guy in their 30s and on should check out. It's called From Strength to Strength.
Okay.
And that's a great book that basically talks about how we have different stages in our life. And once you get into your 30s and 40s, you start to decline a little bit, right? We think about athletes. He talks about athletes. Once they're in their late 20s and 30s, like that's a geriatric athlete in some, area. Maybe not LeBron James, who's going to be playing forever because of his routines and everything.
Right.
But so I remember that book being very helpful because it talked about how, hey, maybe as you're getting older, you're not as quick in some areas, or you're maybe not able to relate to people as well. However, there's more than a lot of hope because you're older and you have these systems in place, like this is what you could do and this is how you can shift.
Okay.
But yeah, his stuff on meaning, I mean, he's got, 2 simple questions for finding your meaning in life, which is asking yourself, why you're here, what you're, why are you specifically here?
Okay.
And, what would you die for today? And it sounds like 2 simple questions, and then you hear them, you're like, oof.
Right.
Like you can sit on that.
Right.
For quite a while. But I love his stuff because he's like, the whole purpose of life is not to just be happy, right? And I think especially as men, we don't want to deny these emotions, right? So there's this stereotype that men can't talk about emotions and things like that. No, I think we can, but I think more so we show them first. And and I think all of the emotions are important. Arthur C. Brooks will talk about He's like, you don't want to be happy all the time. God forbid, if you've got like a tiger running at you, in your head, you don't want to go, wow, he looks just beautiful and orange, and I'm so happy that he's here.
You're not going to be as equipped. Yeah.
Yeah, you want fear. Like, you want that fear at that point so you can just dive out of the way and save your skin, right? So I love From Strength to Strength, and I think the other one is Building the Life You Want with Arthur C. Brooks. I would recommend them for, anybody that right now is just even having a little bit of a doubt, and I have it too, of who am I and what am I doing and why, and also am I important, and anybody asking that out there, you absolutely are important. I'm going to guess if you're a dad listening to this podcast,
right,
like, there's at least one person that does rely on your significance, and appreciates that for being there, even if they're not saying it.
Amazing. So looking ahead, with this nonprofit, your goal is to help, these kids to become better and like start their families and such, to become more successful. What are the things that you are really looking into besides that, just having those stronger families?
Yeah, I think for them it's interesting because we have the short-term stuff, right? I mean, the short-term is like, I want them. I hate to say it this way, if you don't want them on the streets, right? It just doesn't sound great. But like, I want them to be able to participate in something that's positive for them right now. I want them to learn and enjoy themselves. But yeah, in the future, like, we're not trying to make the next president or the next billionaire or anything else like that. Like, I want our kids, and I've had some go through, and I love to see it. Like, I've got kids now that are coming back. They're really proud because they're like, hey, I'm able to rent an apartment. I have an old beater car that I paid cash for, and I don't have any debt right now. I'm 22 years old and I'm working, right? And like, I know for some people that sounds like, oh, well, that's it. I'm like, I don't know, to be in that position where, maybe you were in an area where the deck is stacked against you a little bit,
right?
And maybe statistically you could go this way, but at 22, like, you're starting out with some money in the bank, and you are understanding that, hey, I can work for something,
right,
and achieve it, and I don't have to constantly compare myself to others. Like, we're just looking to have our kids find a little bit of peace, and for me, understand that community is really, really important.
Amazing.
We can curate everything. Like, I mean, you go on YouTube or Spotify, you're going to get all of the ads that are specific towards you, right?
Right.
And everything's an individual experience. And that's great. I love strong individuals, but I'm just happy that a lot of our kids seem to be doing well once they get older, and also are wanting to come back and volunteer their time as well.
Fantastic. Don, thank you so much. And, as my good friend Pete, he's a coach, and he's mentioned that when you have those hardships, it gives you the street, the credibility.
Street cred, yeah.
Yeah, so, I didn't want to, so there's so many things I don't want to mention or talk because I don't want to, like, offend some folks. But, but for sure, you do have that, and thank you so much for really sharing that. It's been really inspirational, and it's a practical advice for like so many of us, So thank you so much for doing this. Now, is there any other, is there a way folks can find you and your projects, my friend?
Yeah, I think probably the most active would be on LinkedIn.
Okay.
If you search Don Stinson. I think my tagline, it's a little goofy. It's like Chief Dad Wrangler of Six there.
Right.
You can find me on there. It's pretty active. And then if you go to donstinson.net, that's where my site is. We were talking earlier. Everything's like a do-it-yourself, homegrown thing, right? So you'll go on that site, and someone will probably go like, this looks fine, but why is your picture floating a little bit? Because I wanted it out there, and eventually, it's like being a dad. You just got to step in and do it. And if you're going to wait for things to be perfect, like, that time's never going to come up.
Absolutely. Absolutely, my friend. We have to take that initiative and be intentional, like you mentioned. This is so amazing, my friend. Thanks so much. So, thank you, everyone, for listening. And please don't forget to leave a comment below and share your thoughts about today's episode. And until next time, please keep puzzling those dad challenges, because this is never ending thing. We have already signed a contract, or unknowingly or knowingly, so we have to do our part. So, yes,
Love
sir.
it.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.